Getting about those things again for tuning in to yet another video. Infamous coming at you live from the West Coast City in San Jose, California. So we are currently chopping these bags. You guys can see. You guys can also see I already made some holes here. I was mounting it. I was trying to see what's like best for me on far as how high the bags are going to be sitting, how forward, sitting down on the bike, getting like super close to the front of the lid. Compared to, of course, my seat and where my butt kind of sits at. I was trying to see if I had enough clearance to move this as far up as possible. And so, anyways, like I said, I've been making some cuts, some adjustments. You guys can see I already chopped them. I mean, there's different ways to do this. All right, I've seen some videos. Nobody really kind of tells you how to do it. So in this one, this is like the master copy, I guess, and then I'm gonna use this, and then I'm gonna transfer it over to the other saddlebag. But what the plan is, of course, is to bolt up these holes, line it up, bolt them up, and then of course transfer these holes that I'm going to be drilling on the other side so they can be exactly the same. And then I'm also going to be, of course, using this layout, this line, to transfer it over to the other saddlebag. So let's just talk about what we've been doing so far in this. You guys can see that I've been scuffing it up. You guys can see the inside. I also made these little teeth so it would grip the ABS a little bit better. So just, prepping the surface. I'm using a 120 grit. I have the mess somewhere around here. I gotta clean up my work area, but I have it somewhere around here. I've been sanding it down. Of course, these are the tools I'm using, the grinders and stuff like that. Here's the piece that I chopped off, and that was another thing that I was deciding on, thinking about doing it in front of the bend. I just didn't think there was going to be enough chop. This one's slightly above my fender. I was also trying to line up this line with the bottom end of my fender, just to kind of make it look a little bit better. But based on where the saddlebag sits and where the chop was going to be, I just didn't think there was enough chop. So that's why I chopped them down this much. I added an extra 2 inches to the original chop. So you guys can see that's the old piece. You guys can also see these are OEM saddlebags. All right, look how thick that ABS is. It's about a 1/4 inch thick. These are made in the States. These saddlebags. That's one of the reasons why I went with OEM bags. These bags are thick. You guys can see Harley-Davidson right there, made in the USA. All right. So the reason why I'm going with this instead of buying saddlebags, that I already chopped, and I do have chopped saddlebags. I already have the CVO ST saddlebags. I already have them, but I got these before those saddlebags. So I've had these for a while now, and I've been planning on doing this. And I figured, what? Why not just do it now? Show you guys, how to do it and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and bolt this up to the other saddlebag and then transfer over all the marks where it's going to get cut. And then, of course, how to make them exactly the same. So I used a few tools here. You guys can see measuring tape. Measured it from the top of the lid down. It's exactly 5 inches. Over here, same thing. It's exactly 5 inches. So that was my original mark. And then, you always want to measure 3 times before you cut something. All right. But as far as the pieces, the ABS, I had like 1/8 thick ABS, and I went ahead and I just ordered a thicker piece because there's a little bit of flex in this, and the reason why I'm going with a thicker piece is because I want the metal pieces kind of sticking to it and penetrating and getting some good penetration. So these are 1/8 ABS sheets. So that's how that's gonna go. Well, it's actually gonna go on the inside. I'm gonna use the texture on this side on top of all the little, you know, teeth that I did over here. I'm gonna use that as a, you know, just for it to kind of bond. So let's go ahead and grab the other saddlebag. Like I said, let's grab the other saddlebag. You guys can see what I'm doing. Alright, so we went ahead and bolted up the saddlebags. You guys can see this is my template, what I have cut. This is the original, what we're going to cut. So I'm also going to be, like I said, using this hole and this hole as my mounting. So I'm going to put the drill, make my mark, and punch all the way through. We're going to do that. You guys can see that I've also used these little like guides, kind of keep everything in order, because there is a little bit of a bezeled edge. But that looks pretty close. If it's off, it's going to be off by maybe 1/8 of an inch. But the mounting holes really don't matter. And quite honestly, as long as we're close within 1/8 of an inch on the chop, I don't think people will notice. You guys can see. So I have my Sharpie. Be a good idea if you have tape, masking tape. That's where you want to do the masking tape. So I'm also going to be, you know, measuring on top of that. I'm not just gonna, you know, do this and then cut it. No, I'm going to measure it exactly, because I know this from this point to this point is 5 inches. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my measuring tape, measure 5 inches, and then we're going to cut it after that. Alright, so there we have it. Those are the mounting holes. If you guys saw the other bags, I scuffed up these other holes so I could use the JB weld and cover them up. That's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to scuff it up, give it some grit for I mean, you can use whatever you want, filler, or I'm going to use the JB weld stuff. That thing's a little bit more flexible, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to grind up the inside a little bit, scuff up, you know, this whole area, and then use the JB weld or maybe the Bondo, because it's very rigid. I don't see it cracking or falling out. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, that's pretty much it. These are the mounting holes. The bolts themselves are 5/8, I believe, so we're not gonna have any issues there. This is gonna mount up exactly like the other saddlebag. If you've seen my other videos, you guys know how I cut things. I cut things outside of the mark, and then I'll take a sanding block or some sanding paper or a sanding disc, and then I'll sand it closer to my mark. So that's what I like to do, just to kind of be on the safe side. Give myself about 1/8 of an inch of material cut on the outside of my guide, and then sand it smooth into my mark, so I'm not taking off too much. Alright, let's get to work. Alright, so we have our guides here. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. So of course, measure 3 times, cut once. So you always want to use these landmarks, because these are always going to be exactly the same no matter what. Alright, so this is 5 inches. Like I said, the green tape is my guide. There it is, 5 inches. This side, 5 inches. Bam, 5 inches. I noticed when I was measuring the first one, these do kind of curve a little bit towards the middle. You see that? But I'm making my cut straight, so it's going to be off, like in the middle, it's off by less than 1/8 of an inch. Alright, but you can see that it's not 5. So they contour a little bit, slightly. So I'm just going off the edges, and that's pretty much it. Everything that you see green is where I'm going to cut at. It's going to be exactly the same as my other bags. so there you have it, guys. This was now cut. Now we just got to put the little details in there. Of course, remove the tape, put some scuff. So here I have 120 here, but use 80 grit. You know, the closer you get, or the more cuts that you get into the surface, the more it'll bond. So if you have 80 grit or 40 grit, just use that. I'm gonna look for my 40 grit sanding paper. I know I have it somewhere, so I just have a huge mess everywhere. I'm gonna get the 40 grit. I'm gonna do this again with the 40 grit, and then I'm gonna do the inside of this, and then I'm gonna put the little teeth in there. So if you guys saw the video, use a mask. You don't want to breathe all of this ABS in. And these are the bigger particles, but there's a lot of fine little particles. You don't want to breathe this stuff in. Use a mask. I also used earbuds. These machines are loud. Don't damage your hearing. So use the proper protection, guys. If you're doing this at home, use the mask or cover up with something. Use your shirt or something. Like I said, we're going to take this, scuff it all down, remove the tape, scuff all that down too. We're going to be doing that. So there's no need for me to record that because I have a bunch of videos on that stuff. You guys can take a look at that stuff on how to do this. But just to kind of fast forward through it, we're going to remove all the tape, scuff it up. I'm going to be looking for the 40 grit sanding paper. Scuff all that stuff up, clean it up as much as possible. You guys saw that I used both the jigsaw and the sanding disc. Use gloves if you have them. Alright, so I already made my pieces. You guys saw a little bit. I'm trying to record as much as possible. It's just difficult, I guess, to record. And I mean, pretty straightforward. Here's this piece. I'm going to use the textured on the inside. I still have to scuff this up. I'm going to scuff up this whole edge so I can have a nice bonding surface. Looking for the bottom right here. This is my smooth side, so I know that's the bottom. That's going to fit right there. I'm going to use the masking tape, hold it in place, and then I'm going to use the hot staples. Put that in there, and then we're going to apply the JB Weld. And here's the other piece. I'm still working on this one, so I still have to shape it. And then that piece goes like that. Of course, we still have to trim all the excess. Oh, sorry. We still have to trim off all the excess. So we have to trim off that top corner, corner on the right, and then we'll be pretty much ready and set to go. Anyways, here it is. We are shaping the piece to the saddlebag. I'm using the grinding wheel, the sanding wheel, grinding wheel. We're out of juice, so let's see. We are 1 bar, so we're starting to lose some juice. But I have it taped up against the saddlebag, removing material because when I start putting the staples in, I want to see where exactly am I, have a little bit more space to kind of really dig it in there. So just looking at it, and then when I start putting the staples in there, I'm going to just make sure that I'm pushing up against the ABS piece. And then we're going to take, like I said already, the JB Weld and fill in all these cracks and then shape this even more. So here we are in the next step. Of course, you guys can see I've already used all the staples, the ABS staple welds. You guys can see huge gaps, but I'm not worried about that. We are going to be using JB Weld to fill in all that stuff. So what we have to do is make it look like this. All right, we've got to smooth it out. We got to cut out all the extra staple that's sticking out of the saddlebag, because we got to have a nice flat surface for the JB Weld. So we're going to use a squeegee or a spreader or whatever you want to call it, and we're going to fill in all of these gaps. So that's why we're smoothing it out, so you guys can see we got to have a flat surface. If we don't have a flat surface, then we're not going to be able to fill in those little points, those little gaps. We got to have a flat surface so we could press the squeegee into these cracks with the JB Weld. So here's this side. You guys can see I still have to clean up a little bit more, But you guys gonna see the final product's gonna look a lot better than this, of course. So that's pretty much where we're at. You know, it's a process. Yes, you could buy these for the cheap, you know, from one of the manufacturers, but the thing is, you don't get the 1/4" ABS, the higher quality ABS. You get the 1/8 inch, the 1/8 ABS. That's what I think is the benefit of doing this. You know, it is going to take you a little bit, you know, more time, but you get to, of course, set it to where you like it and set it to where you want it. Your own customization, your own setup. When people ask, hey, where can I get those bags? Well, you can't, because I made them. So we're gonna, like I said, we're using the grinder to kind of speed this up. Once we remove all of this, the staples and all this other stuff that's sticking out, we use the JB Weld. You could use the grinder to speed up the process, or you could use a sander. That would be the next step, would be the sander. And then we start shaping everything. You will see a little bit of the metal sticking out, but I'm hoping it's not going to be too bad. I'm pretty sure with the JB Weld, we'll be able to cover up a lot of this. We'll shape it, of course, and then we'll have to probably do like 2 passes of the JB Weld. But here's the bottom of it, of course. You guys can see I still have to grind all of this. So it's going to take a minute. The JBL is also going to take like 24 hours to dry. You guys can see this one, I've already kind of cleaned up the bottom. I'm going to fill in that hole, of course. I'm not going to leave it like that. But you guys can see it's taking shape. It's just, you know, it just takes time. So let's go ahead and clean up all this stuff. Make it look kind of like this. See the light? Get it to this level of cleanup, and then we'll apply the JB Weld on the outside, and then we let it dry, and then we hit it with the sander. Alright, so we're just checking in. I've already applied the JB Weld. You guys can see here's the inside. So that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted the JB Weld to kind of push itself through and bond with the inside and the outside. Of course, we are going to have to sand this down and then apply some more JB Weld. Or maybe I'll use the Bondo, the plastic filler. I mean, this doesn't really flex. This is thick ABS, so it doesn't really flex. So I might be able to use the Bondo just to kind of speed this stuff up, because this JB Weld's going to take 24 hours to dry. Now we wait. Like I said, 24 hours. Come back tomorrow. Repeat the process. I'm going to sand it down with either 80 or 120. Because this is pretty much the next step. You could do 40, but you might remove too much material just to kind of like look at it and see how you're going to shape it. 80 grit would be safe. 120, you know, it'll take a little bit longer, but you'll be a little bit safer. So basically, I'm just going to try to feather this part and this part. That's what you're looking for. You want to feather this out so it's not noticeable on the final product. All of this will be feathered out. It's not going to be like this at all. It's going to be feathered out where the person, a regular person's not going to be able to notice the difference between this and this. So that's the goal next. All right, so I'm just checking in. Of course, it's been 6 hours or 7 hours since this has dried, and I've already started sanding. Normally you're supposed to let this cure a little bit longer, but I am very impatient and I wanted to finish, I guess, this video today. So you can see, of course, I gave it a little bit of a contour, just a little bit. I mean, you could add more. If you wanted to give it more of a contour, you can. I think it looks pretty good the way it sits. It's a little sharp edge, but still a little soft. So I think I'm going to go with this look. You guys can see all on the bottom. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but and of course you can see all the staples. I got very close, of course, because I'm giving it quite a bit of contour. The staples are sticking out, but I mean, it's still super soft, like smooth. Like I could run and I don't even feel the difference between the metal, the plastic, and the ABS and the JB weld. I can't feel the difference. So that's pretty good. Because on top of this, of course, we're also going to spray 3 coats of metal flake, 3 coats of clear. Then we're going to sand that, and then we're going to add more coats of clear. So all of this is going to be, of course, hidden. That looks really good, guys. So in case you were wondering how do you chop bags, you could do it that way. You could do it this way, or you could also use the ABS filament or the filler, whatever you want to call it. I believe the JB Weld is a much better, stronger, instead of melting the plastic or the ABS into it and then trying to fuse it and then trying to heat that up and stuff like that, I think the JB Weld works better. In case you guys were wondering, side by side with the right bag and the left saddlebag, there it is. Side by side saddlebags. Even if you had like an imperfection or something was kind of off or whatnot, let's just say, there was something of an imperfection, or something's not really quite even, or something's not really quite, lining up or whatnot. These saddlebags are going to be separated by a wheel at the middle. You will not be able to tell the difference between one bag and the other bag. There's just no way. You have a wheel in the middle, you have the fender, so these are going to be separated by about 6 inches or 6 or 7 inches, or depending on how thick your rear wheel is. Mine's a 180, right? Mine's a 180 plus the fender, so they're going to be separated by that much. You cannot see both of these. You can't see them both side by side, and then on top of that, they're going to be at an angle. You're going to be seeing them from up here. Unless you're getting down on your belly and you're looking at the saddlebag from underneath, you're not going to see this. You're going to be watching them from over here, and you're going to be about 3 feet away. And then on top of that, you're going to have the saddlebag. Like I said, you have the fender in the middle. You're not going to see if there is somewhat of an imperfection, or maybe the angle of one of these corners isn't quite right, or maybe the contour is not exactly the same from this bag to the other bag. You're not going to notice that, or nobody's going to be able to notice it. So there it is, guys. All right, second outro. Life's risk. Get out there and ride. Later.